Hello there, YouTube. If you're looking to get into silver stacking but have no idea where to begin, let me introduce myself. I'm Silver Shepherd. I cover videos and content, anything gold or silver related. And in today's video, I will make a video going through the basics of silver stacking. And that is, what types of silver to buy, where to buy it, and how to avoid very common silver stacking mistakes that I myself fell for, and I know other people also have as well. So without any further ado, let's get straight into this video. So to begin, we should probably cover what is silver stacking. And stacking silver is quite simple and quite cheap as well, at the beginning at least, or depending on what you buy or what size you buy. But if you know what you're doing, it is quite simple. All you need to do is buy physical silver bullion and hold on to it. Now, you hold on to this for wealth preservation, hedges against inflation, and all that, just to protect your wealth outside of the fiat currency. Now, you can do this with things like coins, rounds, bars, junk silver, and some people do it as a prepper for, a financial crisis, and others do it just as a long-term savings account, emergency fund, things like that. But for me personally, it's kind of a mix of both. I like the idea of being able to touch and hold my wealth, the things I work so hard to put my money towards. But also, it's a fun thing, you can watch it and it's not something you have on a screen like the fiat currency where it just pops up in your bank account how much you have. You can see what you have, you can feel what you have, and it's all real. You can play with it, you can do whatever. So that's why I like to stack. Mainly silver. As you can see, I got a couple gold things, but it's mainly silver that I have. So, you want to stack it for wealth preservation and hedges inflation. The thing about silver is it has true value. It's been used as a currency for thousands of years, all the way back to, the Roman times and everything like that. And it's used in everyday things like batteries, electric cars, solar panels, iPhones, anything you could think of. More than likely has some trace amount of silver in it. And again, like I said before, it's a savings account outside of the dollar, which loses value every single year, or on a day-to-day basis it loses a little bit, and that's what makes the price of silver and gold go up whenever the dollar loses value. Whenever interest rates are high, you can use the silver and whatnot to hedge against that, to always make sure you stay and go out ahead. Even in recent times, silver and gold have beat the S&P 500 by quite a few percentages. So it's not necessarily an investment. It's more of something to help protect your wealth and help gain an upper hand on other people. Stay diversified outside of stocks and bonds and everything like that. But this should make up about 10 to 15% of your portfolio. The rest should be almost entirely stocks and bonds. So let's get straight into, what to actually buy. Now, you can buy a variety of different things, and I'll tell them all for you guys. But to start with, we have government-backed coins. Now, these are coins like the Canadian maple leaf right here that you can see. It's denominated at 5 Canadian dollars, or things like these Britannias from Great Britain. These are also government-backed. These are worth about 2 pounds. Let me open this for you guys. So the newer one, King Charles, 2 pounds and 2 pounds. But then you also have Australian. Oops, let me knock that down. Australian, which is, I think, $1. Yes, $1. So government-backed coins are 90% of the time, very safe coins to buy, just because, the punishment for making fakes is very high, so people don't tend to do that. They would rather do it with other things that aren't as bad. But these typically do have a bit higher of a premium than something like the generic round or bar like that, but they're very liquid, very recognizable, and government backed, like I said. So you'll be able to sell these very easily. Something like the American Eagle have a super high premium, but you will be able to make that premium back most of the time upon whenever you go to sell, just because those are one of the highest and most sought after coins, especially here in America, but in other countries as well. Everyone likes the American Eagle, so those are a very safe one. But next up, which on my rankings list that I made a few weeks ago, I ranked the Maple Leaf at #1 for best coins in the halfway point of 2025. So if you're looking to just get into it, I say, Maple Leaf is a great choice and a great coin to pick up. So the next one I would say is generic rounds, which is right here. These Buffaloes are an example. These are one of the most recognizable and sought after of all the generic rounds. They have some from other things like that, but these are very cheap compared to like the Maple Leafs or Britannias or Kangaroo or anything like that. But there's still 1 ounce of silver. They go through private mints, which is what make them quite a bit cheaper, and they're better for beginner stackers because they're very inexpensive. You can grab multiple of these if you want it. You're gonna have to pay $4 more for these than what you would these. So after a little bit of buying these, if you went with these, you'd be able to buy a whole 2 extra if you went with these. So that's kind of why I recommend them for beginners, just to get your foundation up and do everything like that. But the next thing I would do, which I don't really like silver bars necessarily, just not something I'm exactly into, but is buying silver bars. And if you're gonna buy a bar, get the 5 to 10 ounce ones, due to them having a lower premium because of the increased size of them, and they're very easy to stack because 90% of the time you can just stack them on top of each other or do something like that. They're cost efficient again because of the lower premium, but I don't really like stacking them. I'd rather get something like coins or junk silver and things like that. But still, coins are a very good option if you're looking to get into it. In an upcoming video, you guys will actually see that. So yeah, those are very good. One of the next best things to stack is these right here, junk silver. These are they're all flipped around, but junk silver isn't another very good option. It's also known as constitutional silver. These are one of my favorite things to stack. They were U.S. currency made before 1965. As you can see, these are 1964 Kennedys, but they're one of my favorites to stack because they are 90% silver, which makes them super fractional in an SHTF situation. You can always break these up a lot easier than something like a round or a bar like that, which is a super high. But the $1.40 face value of junk silver is approximately 1 ounce, or exactly 1 ounce of silver. So, and that's in half dollars, quarters, and dimes. But so yeah, these are one of my favorites to stack, and you can get these in a variety of ways and a variety of options. So that's the half dollars, but then I also have a couple dimes right here. This is just all I got out to show you guys, but got some dimes, which I love. They have a lot of history behind them. These coins are never coming back. U.S. Mint stopped making them out of 90% silver. And you can always tell when they're silver because, let me see if this camera will focus. The lighting's pretty bad. I'm trying to work that out for you guys, but you don't see the clad mixture. So I love junk silver. The only problem is if you don't have a lot of room, they're hard to store just because you need so much of it to make a true impact, just because they're fractional and stuff like that. But I would start with these generic rounds just to build up my foundation. And then after that, I would move into, government coins like the Britannia, Maple Leaf, American Eagle, whatever. It's always a good idea to stack your own country's coins just because that's, in your country, that's going to be the most popular coin. So, if you're in Britain, Britannia is a great option. If you're in Canada, Maple Leaf's a great option. But also, it's a good idea to stack, countries surrounding you. It's always a good idea to get some of their coins, but start off, you want cheap, you want the most silver for your dollar, which is undeniably the generic silver round. So that's what I did, and I definitely have not regretted that decision. The next thing is where to buy. Now, you can buy silver online on places like SD Bullion, APMEX, but I would definitely recommend against it because you will pay more in the end due to credit and debit card fees, shipping, everything like that. All of that goes into the overall cost of your stack. And like I said before, we want to keep that as low as possible. You know, we want to be cheap, get the most ounces for our dollar. So, you know, if you do choose to do that, try and send a wire, send a check, you know, things like that. But if it's possible, if you have it around you, go to your LCS or, you know, local coin shop. And that will be, you know, you can pay with cash, which is always definitely cheaper. You can maybe find deals, especially if you build a connection with that shop and go there often and spend money there. You know, sometimes they'll cut you a deal. You know, some of this junk silver, you know, it's $12.50. They charged me $11.50 or $12. And, you know, all of that it adds up. All the deals add up. It'll allow me to buy more in the end and things like that, which is, you know, really nice. But also avoid places like eBay or Facebook Marketplace or things like that, because most of the time, 90% of the time, you can't really trust, you know, the places on that or the things on that, just because, you know, it's not very well protected. You know, they can easily send you a fake coin, and obviously we don't want that, because when you go to sell, you're not going to get any money for it. So you're holding, you know, the thing for nothing. You're spending your money on nothing. And we stack this to protect our money, to save our wealth, things like that. So buy from trusted places like SD Bullion or ATMEX, or just go to your coin shop. Those places, I've never had run the problem or talked to someone who run into the problem of buying a fake coin from a coin shop. I would say 98% of the time, no, you're completely covered. That will never happen to you. But, you know, definitely do not buy on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. The other thing you need to, you know, think about and jot down is how much you want to spend. Now, I look at stacking silver, or, you know, as you can see in the back, a little bit of gold. I look at it like a savings account. So every week or month, I set aside my extra money or the money I have to invest, and then go buy, for this example, silver. You know, all this stuff I've saved. I've built up to this. You know, you don't want to, if you have extra money, you don't want to just throw it all in at once, because then you'll be paying, most of the time, a way higher price. You know, you want to dollar cost average your way through it. So if you have, let's say, $1,000 that you can go spend right now, I probably wouldn't spend all $1,000 this moment. I would do maybe $100 for 10 weeks or something like that, where you're, you know, saving your money, but it also makes it cheaper in the long run. You know, if the price goes up, you know, you're still going cheaper, and the price goes down, you're definitely going cheaper, because, you know, you're buying a lower overall price. So that's a very way to do it. You know, save your money, and at the end of the month or whenever you can, go in and buy some. Don't go into debt buying it. Make sure you have money for, you know, other things. Be wise whenever you're buying it. Don't overbuy just to buy into the hype or things like that. You know, you see a catchy YouTube title, and that silver's going to soar up and do amazing things. 99% of the time, you know, those are just for views. Don't go out, withdraw money that you need, put it into silver, and expect, you know, huge returns overnight. That's just not going to happen. So dollar cost average your way, set aside money every week or month, and buy into silver. Stay, you know, invested for long term. Don't look for quick flips. So a common mistake that I see is people overpaying when they first get into it. And this is something that got me. These 20 Buffaloes right here, they should have been online. They were $36. I went to a pawn shop, which I should say, don't ever go to a pawn shop to buy silver. But I went to a pawn shop, and I bought these for $40. I overpaid by $4. So if I never would have done that, I could have bought one or two, you know, extra rounds if I would have just went to a LCS. But, you know, that's a huge mistake that sometimes people do fall into. Unfortunately, I did. But, you know, check spot prices and check prices on other things just to see, you know, if you're getting a good deal or, you know, what's happening. Watch the premiums to make sure, you know, you're not getting screwed over, like kind of how I did. Although I should have been wiser and done better things to protect myself, but oh well. The next thing is don't buy collectible coins. And when I say that, I mainly mean slabbed coins or graded coins, because those have a premium on top of the premium. And, like I said before, we want the most weight for our dollar. Whenever you go to sell, you will never make that premium back up. So if you want a graded maple, don't get it. Just grab the regular maple for cheaper. It's still 1 ounce of silver. You'll be happier that you did it in the long run. Avoid those. You're overpaying a lot. So make sure you don't overpay, and make sure you don't stack collectible coins. Maybe after you have an established stack or whatever and you want to get one every once in a while, that's a bit understandable, but don't go out of your way to do it just because you think it might be safer or whatnot. You're not going to find fakes 90,000% of the time, It's happened once or twice, but it won't happen, especially if you have buying junk silver. You pretty much never find fakes of junk silver unless it's maybe a key date like a 1916D Mercury. Then you maybe, but still, it's not going to happen. So don't overpay and don't buy collectible coins. Once you get the hang of silver stacking, it's all quite simple. Be patient, stay consistent, and stay within a budget. If this video helped, make sure to like, subscribe for more content, and comment down below what your first piece of silver was and what you're thinking about buying next. And so thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.